I just want to preface this video by saying that I don't read an awful lot. I think I read enough. And I read at a pace that suits me, and I think that sometimes people can be a bit judgy about the amount of books someone reads in a month, but you know, that's completely down to that person's reading speed and what they want to read and whether they got into a reading slump and all that kind of thing, so no judgment please. Also, I do read an awful lot of stuff for university, so the holidays, like now, are the only times I really get to read books that I want to read, so future book clubs may mostly be about the books on my course, because a lot of the time I don't have time for pleasure reading, which kind of sucks, but I get to read a lot of other cool stuff. Also, I don't wear my glasses enough in videos because I think they're like super cute, but whatever. Shall we start with the books that I read in June? I read The Bees by Lillian Paul. This is a book literally about bees, and it kind of compares them to a dystopian society. It follows a character called Flora 717, and she is born into the lowest kin or rung in the society of the beehive. She is basically a sanitation worker, but she's different from the other sanitation workers because she can speak and she is intelligent. What this book is about the struggle of one beehive essentially, and specifically Flora 717, because she struggles with a lot of conflict between her love for herself and her personal problems and desires and the hive mind that kind of controls her and the rules that dictate their society. What I really loved about this book was the world building. You almost forgot that you were reading about bees sometimes, which I thought was absolutely amazing and a testament to the author's writing skill. I also thought that this book was incredibly suspenseful, thrilling and exciting, and there was a lot of really cool, gory, violent moments as well as some tender, sweet moments. Overall, it was a really nice mix, and I'm definitely interested to see what else that this author has done. The next book that I read in June was The Messenger of Fear by Michael Grant, and Michael Grant has written two quite popular young adult series called the Gone series and the Berserk series, I think. I have read nothing by Michael Grant before. I have heard about the books that he has written, I just haven't read them for whatever reason. I think it's partly because the Berserk series is kind of a zombie series, and my favourite zombie young adult fiction series of all time is the Enemy series by Charlie Higson. I think that is phenomenal and probably my favourite zombie books ever, so I just was never interested in reading his zombie books, but I saw this book and it was on buy one get one half price, and so was The Bees, so I decided to pick it up as well. The cover is what drew me in because it's got this kind of tattoo style drawing on the front and then the pages are all black, and I just thought it looked really intriguing, and reading the blurb I thought it was going to be like The Hunger Games, but I was wrong. The concept of this book is this girl wakes up in some strange place and meets a guy who calls himself the Messenger of Fear, and he tells her that he is training her to become a messenger of fear, and what they have to do is take the people who've done wrong and know they've done wrong and go unpunished and punish these people, and they offer them the chance to play a game. If they accept and play the game and win, then they can leave. If they refuse or if they lose the game, then they have to face their deepest, darkest, worst fear. The concept of this book was absolutely amazing and I loved it, and I thought that it was so original and interesting and drew on Greek mythology as well, which I loved. However, this book did have a couple of downfalls for me which made me not enjoy it quite as much as I would have liked to. Number one was that I guessed the twist in the story less than halfway through this book, and I was right, so that kind of spoiled it for me. I thought it was glaringly obvious and that ruined the book a little bit for me, but I could have gotten past that. My second problem with the book was that I did not enjoy the writing style very much. I just thought that it was a little bit too wordy and unnecessarily trying to sound really intelligent and smart, which is fine, but it just didn't do it for me. But again, didn't ruin the book entirely, and I did still enjoy it because of the story. It was really cool and intriguing. Maybe I should have gone for his Gone series before I tried this standalone, but this is what interested me, I guess, but it's not something that I would say that you need to absolutely go out and read right now. The last book that I read this month was Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, however you pronounce her name. I'm the last person in the world to read this book, I know, and I also watched the film before I read the book, but I'll talk about that in a second. This book, if you have been living under a rock and haven't seen anything about the Gone Girl book or movie, is about a man called Nick and his wife Amy goes missing and he falls under the cloud of suspicion. However, there is a really awesome twist in the book, which I won't ruin, of course, and it turns out to be a lot darker and more sinister and more spiderwebby, caught in a web kind of. I don't find that knowing the twist from watching the movie ruined this book for me at all. I thought that actually I was kind of paying attention to the little things more because I knew what was happening, so I was trying to see if there was any hints and clues and stuff like that. I also absolutely loved the dual perspective in this book, and I find dual perspective is something that can either be done so right or so wrong, and this did it so right. I loved that it was half from Amy's perspective in diary entries and half from Nick's perspective in first person narration. I thought that there was a distinguishable difference between the voices, which is the main issue that I have with dual perspective a lot of the time. I just thought that it was very witty and clever, and there was some really interesting lines and narration and dialogue, and of course the storyline is absolutely amazing and the twist is just so cool and so interesting. And I also found that the film was fairly faithful to this book as well, which I always appreciate. So if, like me, you have been burying your head in the sand and avoiding reading this for whatever reason, I don't even know why I was avoiding reading it, I just never got round to it, definitely go out and give this a go. And if you haven't seen the film, I would definitely say the same thing. Should I do the to be read pile next or the book haul next? Let's do a haul. So I also want to show you guys some of the books that I have bought this month as well, because I buy a lot of books. I just have a problem with books. It's one of those things that I will always buy. I don't know. But I mostly buy books secondhand, so it's usually okay. I bought 5 books this month, or at least 5 that I could remember and find. This is The Poetry and Life of Allen Ginsberg, and I thought it was such a beautiful book, and basically I think this is part biography, part poems and poetry collection, and I really like Allen Ginsberg's poems, but I don't own a collection of them, so thought that I would buy this, and this was £5 from a secondhand bookshop. The next book that I bought was The Tales of the Jazz Age, which is a collection of F. Scott Fitzgerald stories, and this has, how many? This has 11 different stories in it, and they're split up into 3 different collections or categories, which are My Last Flappers, Fantasies, and Unclassified Masterpieces. And it has things like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, The Diamond as Big as the Ritz, Mr. Icky, The Jelly Bean, all kinds of different things. And I read The Great Gatsby probably 2 years ago now, and I really enjoyed it, and ever since then I have been thinking to myself that I should probably buy some more F. Scott Fitzgerald stuff since I really enjoyed that, but I didn't know where to start because there's so much different stuff. I just didn't know what was good. Saw this and thought this was my perfect opportunity to try out some of his other works. And this was £3.50 from the same secondhand bookshop. Then I bought this copy of The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and this is a pulp publishing house copy, which is one of my favourite publishers ever. Just look at the covers, they're so cool and amazing. And this one has Ryan Gosling on the front, and then it says, "Hey girl, I'd sell my soul for you." And on the back it says Wilde about the boy, but it's spelled like Oscar Wilde instead of Wild. Basically I see these all the time in like Waterstones and places like that, but I never bought them for some reason, and then I saw a whole rack of them in this secondhand bookshop and I was like, yeah, gonna buy at least one, and I picked this one up because I really like Oscar Wilde, but I've never read this, so thought it was a good one. The other one that I really want is the same publishing house's copy of Pride and Prejudice because it has Colin Firth on the front and it's so cute and funny and I really want it, so I'll keep a lookout for that one as well. Then from a charity shop I bought the first book in the Mortal Instruments series, which is City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This is one of those series that I really should have gotten around to reading a really long time ago, but I just haven't for some reason and I don't know why. But when I saw this for only 99p, I was like, I'll give it a go, and if I don't like it, it's no big loss, and if I do, then I'll try out the other books in the series, because I think there's 2 series. Yes, there's 2 different series. My mum is reading this right now, but when she finishes it, I am going to nab it and give it a read myself. It's just so intimidatingly thick. Like, it's so intimidatingly thick. Also, don't judge for the corner fold over, because I use bookmarks. My mum has folded the corner over. How rude. And the last book that I bought was this collection of Nathaniel Hawthorne stories called The Scarlet Letter and Selected Tales, because I'm studying The Scarlet Letter next year. And I got this from my favourite ever secondhand bookshop in my hometown, and they have this big back room where everything is £1 and it's like wall to wall, floor to ceiling secondhand books. My favourite place in the world. Also, it has like a bunch of cool little notes in the margins that I always really like it when books have notes in the margins. I know some people don't write in their books and I don't usually, but I like buying books that already have notes in them. So this book was pre-owned by a man called Jack Hyde and he bought it in August 1983, and then it has even like the original receipt from when he bought it and like the bookmark from the shop that he bought it from and like all this kind of stuff, which most people probably wouldn't be excited about, but I was, that say things like connection with Puritanism and stuff like that. So most people wouldn't be excited by like stuff like that, but I am. Let me have my weird little moments. This was only £1 because everything in the back room of that bookshop is £1, which is amazing. Now, the last part of this video is going to be my TBR list, which is my to be read list for the next month or so, and maybe you'll see in the next video whether I actually got around to reading any of these books because I changed my mind all the time. The first thing in my to be read pile is a trilogy, which I read the first one of when I was 15 and I decided to reread it and see if I can get through the whole trilogy. Probably won't get through the whole trilogy this month because I want to read some other stuff as well, but we'll see. And that is the Titus Groan trilogy, which is made up of Titus Groan, Gormenghast and Titus Alone, and weirdly the last book in the series is the thinnest one, which is very confusing. And this is a trilogy by Mervyn Peake, and from what I remember it's kind of like all medievally and castle-y and kind of weird gothic-y. I don't know. I liked it anyway. I remember liking it. I am going to finally get around to rereading the first one and reading the second two. The next book that I want to read in July is a sequel to the book Virals by Kathy Reichs, which was her young adult book. Kathy Reichs is a crime fiction kind of writer where she writes books about like detectives catching the cops and stuff, and I've read a lot of stuff by her, but then she came out with a young adult series which was like a little bit less gruesome and a little bit more murder mystery-y, and there was like superpowers involved and it was really cool. And then my mum bought me the sequel, which is Seizure, ages and ages and ages ago, and I never got around to reading it, and I don't know why. I thought I'd finally get around to reading it this month because I was talking about it with my mum and she read it and she really liked it, and it's young adult, so if she really liked it then it's definitely worth reading. It's got a very dramatic blurb, so I'm excited to give this a go because, like I said, I really enjoyed the first book. I don't know why I didn't read this as soon as it came out. And the last book that I am going to force myself, or try and force myself to read in July, is Choke by Chuck Palahniuk, and this is a book by the same guy who wrote Fight Club, which I love, and I've read this before actually, so this is a reread because I do really like rereading books, and that's what I usually do when I'm in like a reading slump, is I reread. Basically this book is about a guy who's a sex addict and he pretends to choke on food in order to get people to give him money. It's weird. It's a really, really good book. If you know what Chuck Palahniuk's books are like, then you kind of probably already have an idea about the themes in this, and that it's definitely an adult book and not a young adult book. But if you like Fight Club, the movie or the book, and you like his other books, then this is definitely one of my favourites by him, so definitely worth a go. I got this dead cheap from a secondhand shop forever ago, and it's just raw and edgy and like all Chuck Palahniuk books really, so I plan on rereading this next month too. Well, this month because it's already July. Ugh. Got a blood test and it wouldn't stop bleeding, and there's like a big bruise around it. It's so disgusting and it keeps distracting me. So that is everything for my June book club today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to leave me a comment down below about what books you read in June or what books you're planning to read in the next couple of months, then go for it. And if you have any recommendations of books that I should check out based on what I've talked about in this video, then also leave those down in the comments for me. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter, Tumblr or Instagram, they'll all be linked down in the description along with everything that I'm wearing, just like always. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!